falling out his pants. This is actually the reason they make gun holsters, but he wasn't using one. So Plaxico catches the gun, but when he does, it goes off. He fires a single shot that catches Plaxico in his upper leg. The wound ended up actually not being too bad, but dude could feel the blood dripping down his leg, so it was time to go. Dude had only been there for 5-10 minutes and hadn't even made it to his section yet. As a matter of fact, the club security was actually escorting him to his section when this whole thing went down. Now the good news was, because it's loud and there's a whole lot of stuff going on, nobody even seemed to notice the gunshot, other than Plaxico, obviously, and the people right around him. So he ends up leaving the club and going to the hospital. They patch him up, he goes home, and really he's fine. Now the hospital was supposed to report this to the police, but for whatever reason they did not. Plaxico was already injured. He was already set to be out for like another 6 weeks. So when you couple those two things, you pretty quickly realize that, you know what, bro? He could have really just swept this under the rug, and it didn't have to be a big deal. But eventually, whether it was through club security or somebody who worked at the hospital
you fucking dildo. Fuck you and your mom, you bitch.
Let the police know, so a couple of days later, they find out. Plaxico was actually home watching TV when the New York City mayor hopped on TV and insisted on giving Plaxico the maximum punishment for criminal possession of a firearm. So when Plaxico purchased the firearm,
oh yeah, fuck
he
Bloomberg.
registered it, but he registered it in Florida. In New York City, the laws are way different than they are in places like Florida or here in Texas. Plaxico's Florida license was never going to do him any good in this situation, not to mention the Florida license was also expired. You slipping, Plax. You was slipping. So
Yeah, you was slipping bad, bro.
Bloomberg was on TV publicly calling for Plaxico to receive extended jail time. So
Oh,
Plaxico
fucking
should be
douchebag. Fuck
prosecuted to
Bloomberg.
the fullest extent of the law for accidentally shooting his damn
He's the only fucking victim.
The whole full extent of the law was probably just a little bit of hyperbole, just something to sound good.
Yeah, he's a Democrat. What do you expect?
But when powerful people say stuff like that, I take it serious. So I'm like, the fullest extent of the law. Okay, what does that mean in this situation? Well, a year earlier, that same mayor pushed through a new state law that raised the penalty for illegal possession of a handgun in New York City up to a mandatory minimum of 3.5 years with a maximum of 15 years, bro. So regardless of what you mean when you on TV screaming, he should be punished to the biggest end of the law. That means you feel like he should get 15 years for shooting his damn self in the leg. Like, that sounds insane to me. But that's
Yeah, it is.
Answer this for yourself, and I'm actually super curious about this. What do you think the punishment should be for a crime like this? And you gotta take into account, yes, Plaxico broke the law. Yes, he deserves to be prosecuted. But when you get to talking about the full extent,
Fuck, I fucked that up. You're a dumbass,
he
listen.
have intent to commit any more crime. He doesn't have a history of committing any crimes like this. Nobody ended up getting hurt in the situation other than Plaxico himself. I'm not a person who feels like NFL players or people of high influence should have leniency when it comes to these things, strictly because they're an NFL player or a person of high influence. But in this particular case, it kind of felt like Plaxico's NFL status was actually playing against him. Like, dude was wanting him to get a more severe punishment because of who he was. That's the thing about it that annoys me. It's like, as humans, we are so trash at getting our emotions and egos and prejudices and biases out of the way when it comes to making these decisions, and it just keeps everything as inconsistent as possible. Plaxico ended up taking a plea deal and serving 2 years in prison. So he goes from Super Bowl winning receiver, millionaire, all of this nice stuff to prison. 2 years. That's basically a celebrity in jail. Dude had to be on 23-hour lockdown for his protection. Something that Plaxico was extremely against. He actually said the other inmates wasn't the problem. He said they was cool. They was all nice. He said the only people that treated him bad while he was in there were actual prison guards. After switching prisons a few times, he was able to spend less time in lockdown. He said a few of the cats that was in there looked out. He never had no problems the whole time he was there. He would basically just tell a couple of NFL stories, and cats was basically sitting around a campfire listening to him. No actual fire. Just both the media and fans alike got tons of laughs at Plax's expense. The mistake he made was so baffling. People seemed to look the other way on the fact that he had to do 2 years in prison for it. He also had a situation where Fabulous accused him of dry snitching on him and his crew, saying Plax went to the paper and brought their names up. Hopefully these two figured this out because I'm a fan of both and they're both new.
Fuck Fabulous.
Plaxico denied the allegations, by the way, and says he's not sure where they came from. Either way, while his life, career, and millions of dollars were slipping away from Plax, his name was getting drugged through the mud. Plaxico was released from prison in 2011, with his Giants days well behind him. Dude had lost 2 years of his life to something stupid. He even missed the birth of his daughter while locked in his damn cell. After 2 years away from the game, he stepped back on the field for the other New York team, the Jets. The time away had robbed him of some of his skills, but he still put together a solid campaign in his comeback season. 45 catches for 612 yards and 8 touchdowns. That was enough to earn him Comeback Player of the Year. The next year, he reunited with the Steelers, but it was short-lived as age and injuries pushed Plax out of the game, with his legacy forever altered by the incident. Oh, what could have been if he doesn't go to the club that night or just hires armed security. And Eli probably continue to put up numbers and compete for Super Bowl, maybe even culminating in a Hall of Fame career. But the thing I respect about Plaxico the most is he doesn't walk around the day with that woe is me energy. He takes accountability for his actions, even though many people feel his punishment was extreme. He took it on the chin and has continued to live his life. In 2017, he was hired as a coaching intern for the Cardinals, and he currently does a podcast with Lieutenant TJ Houshmandzadeh.
This guy sucks.
Plaxico Burress was a special talent. He'll forever be a New York team. So he slip up cost him years off his
Okay, that one hit, but
retaining his legacy. It's just unfortunate that instead of being remembered for what he was able to accomplish on the field, he'll likely instead be remembered for this one incredibly terrible slip up. The worst part about this whole thing from a football standpoint is that we probably never saw the best version of Plaxico Burress.
Right.
So, unfortunately, all we're left with are what ifs.
exactly.
Was sponsored by Current. Over the years, many pro athletes have been accused of using performance-enhancing drugs. I've covered a few of these guys already with people like David Boston and Tony Manuel, but perhaps no player is more synonymous with suspected steroid use than former USC and Houston Texans linebacker Brian Cushing. This man literally has steroid allegations that go all the way back to his time in high school. Brian Cushing came from a background of very proud people. From his parents to his coaches, they raised him to have a certain set of values. And based on information gathered through interviews and old articles that I've gone through, those values are implied to be hard work, integrity, the normal stuff. But when I dug a little bit deeper, I realized that wasn't actually the case. According to Brian's dad, they only had one rule, and that was to never, ever embarrass your mother or father. Sounds like a solid rule on the surface, but really, it's extremely shallow. It doesn't say anything about being a good, honest person of integrity. It doesn't even require you to take accountability when you do make a mistake. To avoid embarrassing your parents, all you really gotta do is not get caught. But unfortunately, Brian didn't even manage to do that. Today, we're gonna talk about it. This is what happened to Brian Cushing, one-time holder of the worst kept secret in the entire NFL. Alright, real quick before we jump in, as always, we have to introduce today's video sponsor, Current. Alright, bro, this is the Current card, and this is the future of the bank. Current is basically a mobile bank with Visa debit. So yes, it's a real bank account. We're not talking a prepaid card. So using this card, you get paid up to 2 days and it'll cover you.
Ah, you missed.
So that Hulu shirt you saw when you was shopping with your girl, go ahead and grab that, bro.
Move, bitch.
Hoping it's still here in a couple of days when you get paid. Now they call it the future of banking because it's a real bank account that you can set up 100% online and just have a card shipped to you in a couple of days. You can send money, obviously, receive it, and it works with Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, Cash App, like the game is all here. And there's a bunch of other little cool features too. Deposit check with your camera phone. Earn points and rewards when you use the card. No hidden fees, no minimum balance, nothing like that. Works at the ATM and it's over 55,000 of them where it works completely free. No hidden fees or minimum balance requirements, nothing like that. So basically, you're straight. So if you want to simulate all the take the time to be able to stack, receive, and send money, consider using Current. Click the link in the description and grab a Current card. Shout out to Current once again for sponsoring the video. Without further ado, Brian grew up in New Jersey, and early on, dude was known as a multi-sport athlete.